Okay, so it's a bit autobiographical. The video inside is made like it's more like a document, like video document of the event that happened some years ago. It was so I was living abroad for a long time, like 9 years. I was living in Barcelona, and it was time I was like a bit looking for. Thinking of returning back. I was like, had this idea of like home, like I don't have a home, where is my home? This was going on in my mind, and then it was a birthday of my grandmother. I was in Belgrade visiting, and she said, oh, like she was, it was her 80th birthday, or like jubilee, and she said, oh, now everything is so fine for me, and everything has fulfilled in my life. The only desire that is still resting is that that we go together to my birthplace. That is a small village in Kordun, in Primiš. It's a small village called Primišlje, like that we go together. And because I grew up with my grandmother, and she was explaining me all these stories when she was young, and I had this image of this place like some place that doesn't exist really, that was just part of my illusion, imagination, yeah. And I was like, yeah, Primišlje, like this place really exists? Yeah, why not? Like, let's go. And then we made a plan with my mother, and yeah, and I have to say she was not there. She hadn't visited this place for 50 years. She was not there. Like, I also invited my friend, who was with the camera, because it's something interesting, no? Like grandmother is like, we are going, like for each of us, like my mother, me, my grandmother, everybody, each of us had some story with this traveling. It was like grandmother was going after 50 years. For me, it was a place that doesn't exist, but now it's somewhere on the map. My mother also, I don't know, and I called this friend to film it, like let's just document that, because like, and then what happened, we are like going there from Belgrade, and it was not really, it was somewhere in the back of my mind that there was like war there in 90s. So we find this place that is completely like abandoned, like vegetation growing, taking over this like social life. There was visible. What are those like invisible ties that connects us, like with some particular places, like geographical places, and how this gets somehow threaded into the stories. Also, I made like a book. I put these stories in the book, and then also while she was talking, I was making a drawing, so there are like illustrations in the book. So in the same time, I was doing another project that I'm just shortly going to show. It's a library. I started to collect history textbooks from all over ex-Yugoslavia, and this is also like another perspective towards the history, and it's official history. Again, this work is a tool also to find out what's going on. So there's now this huge library, Disputed Histories Library, and 2 years ago I started to do workshops with this, and this is all about that, about like finding what is going on, how now we are perceiving the truth. And here is Aviv, and we are doing this documentary embroidery, and maybe I would like maybe to introduce you.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Aviv. We're doing this project. It's a real-time documentary embroidery. We're presenting the idea of embroidery. It's a sort of a new old idea of embroidery as a form of documentation. Basically, embroidery is the most efficient way of documenting reality. Sorry for all the videographers out there, because it's more efficient because you produce less images in more time. So you work more and you produce less, which is more efficient, and we do it always collectively and in public space. People they remember that at some point, not so long ago, people were doing these crafts on the street, but now it's not so common, so it's strange, but it's familiar. And a lot of people not a lot of people, but a very particular kind of person is attracted to it, and they sit with us, and we always make these, it's about making these unexpected connections and attracting a very maybe an unexpected sector of the place where we want to document, and these people sit with us and embroider. And now here, what we've been doing recently is we're presenting a model for collaborative work that's horizontal. It's a non-hierarchical or a less hierarchical model for collaborating, which is based on basically we have a very basic form, which is this triangle, and we tell people you can express basically yourself in any way you want, but we just we have just a very few basic instructions in order to be able to connect to each other. And one is that we're working from these corners. So these corners are later going to connect and create new meanings between people. And we want people to write something about feminine. So we're not defining it, we're sort of like just attacking it from a lot of different directions at the same time, and see, it's an experiment. We're using this thing that is traditionally considered, or was considered a feminine activity, which is embroidery. So we coined this sort of joke term, femininism, which is, and collectively somehow, hopefully this is going to somehow describe in this place, in this moment of time, what our collective joint ideas about feminine or feminism are.